In a statement to mark the United Nations International Day of Remembrance of Victims of Slavery, the global body said centuries of slavery laid the foundations for a system of discrimination based on white supremacy that is still prevalent today. As a workaround, UN Chief Antonio Guterres called for reparations to make amends for the harm done by the long years of slavery.
We call for reparatory justice frameworks to help overcome generations of exclusion and discrimination. Many of those who organized and ran the transatlantic slave trade amassed huge fortunes. Meanwhile, the enslaved were deprived of education, health care, opportunity, and prosperity. We appeal for the space and necessary conditions for healing, repair, and justice. And above all, we resolve to work for a world free from racism, discrimination, bigotry, and hate.
That statement echoes calls from the Abuja Proclamation, the first Pan-African Conference on Reparations, which was held in the Nigerian capital in April 1993. The conference led to a joint document on reparations. In one part, it stressed that Western nations who benefited from centuries of free slave labor and a century of colonial exploitation must fix the damage through monetary compensations, debt cancellations, and a higher Africa representation in global governance like the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, and the UN Security Council. African countries have been demanding compensation for the atrocities meted out on their ancestors for more than 3 centuries, but without much success. And recently, these voices are growing louder.
It is time for Africa, whose sons and daughters had their freedoms controlled and were sold into slavery, to also receive reparations.
The demand for reparations is not an attempt to rewrite history or to continue the cycle of victimization. It's a call to recognize the undeniable truth and right the wrongs that have gone unpunished for far too long and continue to thrive presently.
History already knows examples of successful cases. For instance, other groups like the Jewish victims of the Nazi Holocaust and Japanese Americans of the U.S. internment during World War II received $60 billion and $1.2 million respectively as monetary compensation. But is Africa's case any different? Well, despite the UN admission, European states have their own views on the issue, where there is room for apologies but not reparations.
Today I'm standing here in front of you as your king and as part of the government. Today I'm apologizing myself. Today I'm asking for forgiveness for the crystal clear lack of action.
I would like to ask for forgiveness for what Germans did to your ancestors here. What happened here is our shared history, the history of your ancestors and the history of our ancestors in Germany.
Although many Belgians sincerely loved the Congo and its inhabitants, the colonial regime as such was based on exploitation and domination. This regime was one of an unequal relationship, in itself unjustifiable, marked by paternalism, discrimination, and racism. It gave rise to abuses and humiliations. On the occasion of my first trip to the Congo, here in the face of the Congolese people and those who still suffer today, I wish to reaffirm my deepest regret for these wounds of the past.
Despite the call from the United Nations, the culpable Western states are unwilling to change the status quo. But many people in Africa and beyond will be closely watching to see what happens next. Timothy Obiezu, RT, Abuja, Nigeria.